In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the first tier of the Entrelac. In the last tutorial, I showed you how to do the base triangles, and now we're going to do the first tier triangles, which includes a left triangle, 3 middle triangles, and a right triangle. Now, again, I'm going to be using the knit backwards method, and our right side is always going to be facing us. However, like I've mentioned before, I have written the pattern to include both the knit backwards method as well as the turning the work method. So if you prefer to try doing the turn the work method, you can find that information in my pattern, which is available on Ravelry. So we're going to start with the left triangle. And again, we have the right side facing, so we have the stockinette section facing us. Okay, and we are going to start with the first triangle. The first triangle is going to be, the first row is just a knit backwards 1. And again, usually the first row is kind of wonky. So we're going to scooch these stitches up here a little bit more, make it a little easier. So that's the first row, knit backwards 1. The second row is a knit in the front and the back of that 1 stitch. Okay. The third row is backwards knit 1. And again, if you missed my backwards knitting tutorial and want some more instruction, you can check out that video. And then we're going to knit 2 through the back loop. Knit 2 together. Backwards knit 2 together. Okay. So what I did there was I knit the blue stitch and the first yellow stitch together. That was row 3. Now for row 4, we're going to knit 1. We're going to make 1 here through the space between, and then we're going to knit 1. Row 5 is going to be backwards knit 2, backwards knit 2, and then backwards knit 2 together. So again, I'm sticking my needle through both of those stitches, the blue stitch and the yellow stitch. I'm going to knit them together. Okay? And then row 6 is knit 2 and make 1. So each time we do a row, we're making, or each time we do a right side row, which is really our knit rows, when we're doing our regular knit rows, we're going from right to left. Row 7 is backwards knit 3. And again, I have the pattern written up. You do not need the pattern to make this. I am including all of the information in the tutorial on how to make this dishcloth. But if you prefer to have written instructions, it is available. And then you're going to knit 2 together, the blue stitch with the yellow stitch. And if you are using just one color, you'll just knit those 2 together. I just like to do the 2 color because it makes it easier for you guys to see where those tiers are. Then we're going to knit 3 for row 8 and make 1. And then knit 1. Okay, and then we're going to backwards knit. And you're going to backwards knit until you get to the last stitch before, so you're going to knit these 2 stitches together. So we're going to backwards knit this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to knit these 2 stitches together. Well, we're going to backwards knit them together. And then we're going to knit across to 1 stitch before the end, and then we're going to make 1. because we're trying to get to 6 stitches. Okay, and then knit 1. And you see how that triangle is forming kind of at an angle? This is our base, and then this triangle is forming kind of to a right angle to it. So we're going to backwards knit to 1 stitch before the last blue stitch. Again, this yarn is kind of splitty. Trying not to split the yarn. And we're going to knit that last blue stitch with the last yellow stitch. We're going to backwards knit it. And that is the end of the left side tier. Now we're going to go on to the middle tiers. So for the middle tiers, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 6 stitches along this edge, and then we are going to do the same similar thing that we did over here. So we're going to pick up and knit, backwards knit, because we're staying on the right side. Otherwise you would be picking up and purling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1 more. 6. Okay. Then we have 6 new stitches, so we should have 6 stitches here, and then 6 stitches here. Now we're going to move that last picked up stitch back over to our right needle, and we're going to knit it together with the first yellow stitch. Okay? So we just moved that blue stitch back over to the right needle and knit it together with the yellow stitch. Then we're going to knit across 6 stitches. Okay? We only want to go through 6 stitches. We don't want to go past there. We want to make sure we keep our 6 stitches separate from these 6 stitches. Then we're going to slip the first stitch just like we did on that first row. Slip that first stitch, and then we're going to backwards knit across to the last blue stitch, and the last blue stitch is going to get knit together with the first yellow stitch. Okay? And then we're going to knit across all 6. Slip the first stitch, backwards knit across to the last blue stitch, or 5 stitches. You know, you want to slip the first stitch and knit 4, and then you're going to knit 2 together the last, because if you're not doing 2 colors, you might not know where to stop. So you're going to slip and then knit 4 and then knit 2 together, and then knit 6. So you see how much easier this is. I have not had to turn my work once. So again, we're going to slip the first stitch, and we're going to backwards knit 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to knit those 2 together, and then we're going to knit across 6 stitches. Okay, and we still have 2 more stitches over here, so that tells us we have a couple more rows to go. So we're going to slip the first stitch, And slipping that first stitch, all that really does is it gives you a nice little chain up the side. I'm not sure if you're able to see that on the camera, but it gives you a nice chain up the side in which to pick up your stitches when you come back the other way. So we're going to slip that stitch, and we're going to backwards knit 4, and then knit 2 together, and then we're going to knit 6. And the last row of this triangle, we're going to slip that first stitch and backwards knit 4, and then we are going to knit the 2 together. So that completes, that completes the triangle. And then we're going to do that same middle triangle 2 more times because we have 2 more sections that are in the middle. Okay, now I have completed the 3rd middle triangle. So we have a left side triangle, 2 or 3 middle triangles, and now we have to do a right side triangle. So the right side triangle is going to start off very much like the other triangles or the other middle triangles where we picked up stitches. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to pick up 6 stitches along this edge here, this final edge of this triangle. Just like we picked up the other stitches. So we're going to backwards knit them, pick up the stitches, 6 stitches total. And if you find it easier just to turn the work to pick up the stitches, that's totally fine. I know that I did that the first time. Let's see, I think that's 5 stitches. Yep, 1 more here at the end. So now we have 6 stitches, but how do we decrease down to 1 stitch? We're going to go ahead and the second row, that's the first row, picking up the stitches, the first row. The second row is just plain straight knit, knit 6 stitches. So that's the same as the other triangles. And then we're going to still slip this first stitch, and we're going to backwards knit until the last 2 stitches. In the last 2 stitches, we're going to backwards knit them together. So we've decreased the stitch. Then we're going to knit across 5 this time because we just decreased 1 stitch. And we're going to slip the first stitch. We're going to backwards knit to the last 2, and we're going to knit them together, backwards knit them together, the last 2 stitches. Sammy is wanting my attention again. And then we're going to knit across these 4 stitches, and then we're going to slip this stitch, and then we're going to backwards knit 1, and then we're going to backwards knit 2 together without splitting the yarn. Maybe. There we go. Gotta get that little loop on there. Okay. And then we're going to knit across these 3 stitches. And then we're going to slip this one, and then backwards knit these 2 together. And then we're going to knit 2. And then the final stitch, or the final row, is to backwards knit these 2 together. And then that finishes off that tier. You're going to end up with 6 stitches on each of your triangles. Each of your triangles going across, and 1 stitch at the end to start off your second tier. And that is all there is to the first tier of Entrelac. Stay tuned in the coming weeks for the second tier and the final tier of the Entrelac, the final tier of triangles. And be sure to check out the base tier section if you haven't seen that, as well as the magic knot, where you can get your magic knot right at the end of your row so that your second tier is a different color. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you will check out my other tutorials. Bye for now.
As always, thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Please feel free to contact me with your comments or suggestions, as I am always trying to improve the show. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube as Bloomingknitter. You can also find me on Plurk, Twitter, and Pinterest as Bloomingknitter, but I don't frequent those sites as often. I post show updates on Twitter and Facebook, and sometimes to Google Plus and Plurk. I am Miss Aerobics on MyFitnessPal and Fitbit. You can always find all the old episodes as well as links to the tutorials on the blog at www.knittingblooms.com. And you can also follow the show on Facebook. You can email me at knittingblooms@gmail.com, and show notes can be found at knittingblooms.com.